Okay, let's continue this question. Okay, so you notice this is a springboard, right? You know how the springboard works. So in the swimming event or sports event, they have this 1 meter springboard dive. You can watch the video or if later you have time, I will show you the springboard dive. So this springboard is very elastic. So they say state the force which allow the ball to fly off at point B. Okay, point B. So these are the elastic spring force which I put there. Okay. Next, without changing the springboard, what can the boy do if he wants the ball to reach a point higher than Q? So if you know how does the springboard works, right? So your possible answer is, okay, you push down the springboard harder. Okay, push down the springboard harder. Or you can say apply a greater force. So this part, let me put it here. Okay, push down the springboard harder, or say apply a greater downward force on the springboard. Okay, how do they apply? Let's say in the the 1 meter platform diving, they will jump, leap, press it down, and then they leap off the board. Okay, next, okay, this one, as I told you right earlier, the MCQ, remember, the gravitational force, okay, do not change with height, only GPE change. So for this one, you're supposed to draw bar graph. Okay, notice a bar graph, because some students, actually they know, but they see wrongly. They go and draw line graph. So bar graph, you need to draw the stack. So as long as you draw, okay, because I don't have a ruler here, I use my free hand. By the way, you should use a ruler. So you draw 3 blocks, right? Same height and same width. Okay, same height and same width. Okay, you must use a ruler because I don't have a ruler to draw on the screen here. So you just draw something like that. 3 blocks, same height and same width. Okay, because the gravitational force of these 3 positions doesn't change. Okay, so you hold on. For this one, I will try to share with you a video clip. Okay, relating to the questions, which is about the springboard diving. So I showed this event, how the elasticity of the springboard works in this event. There is a recent SEA Games held in Vietnam. So you can see the video clip, right? I'm doing the screen sharing now. Okay.
O3B. And Avia is going for the inward 1.5, as did Huang, the previous competitor.
Singapore.
So again, we've got something to compare it with immediately.
Okay, notice here, this board is only 1 meter above the water level. So this is called a 1 meter springboard event. It's held last year in Vietnam. Okay, notice he pressed the board down, right? So it's being leaped off. So there's an elastic spring force being shown in action.
Oh, he pulled that entry in very nicely. I think he's made a nice recovery there. Looked like it was going to pull that entry in very nicely.
Replay.
Oh, he pulled that entry in very nicely. I think he's made a nice recovery there. Looked like it was going to over-rotate.
Let's see the slow-mo.
Somehow he's ripped it through. That's great maturity for a teenager on the entry. This looked like it might have been overcooked, and then he's curled in underneath. This looked like it might.
Let me do a replay at this part.
He's ripped it through. That's great maturity for a teenager on the entry.
You see this part, the springboard being bounced back. Oh, so this is the elastic spring force in action.
This looked like it might have been overcooked, and then he's curled in underneath. Nicely done. Close to the perfect entry, but it just
close to the perfect entry.
His supporters likewise, wishing him the best.
Slow-mo, you see.
6.5. 6.5.
Reaches for the water, pulls it in.
Okay, so this is the springboard. So if we come back to this question, so in order to cause the ball to project to a greater height, right? So you push the springboard harder or apply a greater downward force. So in the event just now it was shown, right? The person actually leap off. So as it leap off higher, right? It pressed down, right? Then more elastic potential energy will start here and then converted to more kinetic energy. So we'll go to a greater height. So this bar graph setted. Okay, let's see this one. Okay, this event actually have a few names. It is called, in Singapore, they commonly call it as pool, right? Okay, this one. Let me share this one, this event. Okay, this one, this event. Sometimes called the snooker. So you can see that in this game, John pushes a pole gently to strike the ball P. So ball P is here. So ball P is actually usually in this snooker is a white color ball. So it hits the other ball and then change position. So state the force that caused ball P to stop moving. Okay, very easy. Can you see the word state? Oh, so this one very easy. You just put in frictional force or friction. Frictional force or just friction. Okay, state. No need to give explanation. Okay, what could John do to the table if he wanted ball P to move further than position Y using the same amount of force? Okay, notice here, because this one is an exam question, it's not in the real life. Because in real life, they don't use wooden table, because in real life, right, this part, right, the snooker, they have a thin layer of cloth on it. Okay, but this one, for example, but they use wooden surface. So for this question, you can say apply a layer of lubricant. Okay, so for these questions, you can say apply a layer of lubricant such as oil, right, on the surface. Okay. Apply a layer of lubricant such as oil, okay, on the surface of the wooden table. Okay, then explain your answer. Okay, this one, the keyword must be used. Keyword, you say the layer of lubricant helps to reduce friction between what? Okay, so this one I got you to make. So explain your answer, you should say, okay, the layer of, okay, the layer of lubricant helps to reduce friction between, short form, between the woodens, between the ball, okay, and the wooden surface. Okay, reduce the friction. So ball P will be able to move further. Okay, so this is the answer for this one. This part. Okay, the keywords involved is helps to reduce friction between the ball. Okay, this is my shorthand. For typing purpose, I use short form. So whenever you see this word B/W means between. Okay, short form for between. Okay, where you use this in secondary school, a teacher will teach you this shorthand, between. Okay, the layer of lubricant helps reduce friction between the ball and the wooden surface, so ball P will be able to move further. Okay. Okay, later I'll show you a video clip on this also. State two effects of forces on ball P, right? When John hit with a pole to make it reach position. Okay, so state two effects. Number one, what can you say? You can say number one, it caused ball P to start moving from rest. Can you see here? The ball P is here, right? At first it's not moving, right? Because it says state the effects on ball P when John hit with the pole. Okay, so this part, effects number 1. Okay, I combine 2 together. Effect number 1, it caused ball P to start moving from rest. Effect number 2, it caused ball P to change its direction of movement. Okay, so these are the, you can take down this, and then I will screen share and share with you another video clip. Okay, I will show you a real life example of this this game, which we have seen earlier in the question.
Doesn't want to catch it full ball.
So the person is using this pole to hit.
And that's exactly what he's done. Unfortunately for John, he's pushed the red in a position where he can get all 3 reds into play here, and that's, he's going to have to take a risk here, Ben.
So you see, I apply the force, like the pole hit the white ball.
There's no easy safety shot.
Yeah, I don't like this much.
Okay. So this is
he's not far away from there. He's got it in behind the ground.
Okay. So this is how this thing works. The using of the pole to hit the ball. So let's continue with the question here. Okay. So it caused ball P to start moving. Okay. It caused ball P to start moving. Okay. Next question. Okay, question 3. David set up an experiment as shown. Okay, you need to visualize how this thing works. You know what's a latch? Okay, this part is like holding, is supporting this at the latch. Latch to release the hammer. So when they remove this latch, the hammer will swing down due to the pull of gravity. Gravity is pulling this to hit this block. So when the hammer hits this block, the block will move in this direction. Okay. Then I see that this part, the area of contact with the tabletop. So this is the surface area here. Okay, this part. Okay, so this says when the latch was released, the hammer swung towards the block and moved it across the table top. The distance moved by the block was measured and recorded. David repeated the experiment using blocks of the same material, okay, different masses, and area of contact. So it's the same material. So these 3 blocks are the same material. Okay, they have different masses. So you see, they change 20, then they are 30, 30, and area of contact. And then they measure the distance move. So highlight this part. So they say, based on David's result, that means your answers must get the evidence from this table. What is the relationship between the mass of the block? So you look at the mass of the block, right? This part. Okay, this part of the mass, and the friction acting on the block. Okay, to measure friction, we cannot measure friction directly, right? But indirectly, we should see this part, the distance move. So that means the shorter the distance, the greater the frictional force, correct? Yeah. So which one? Okay, so they say what is a, so you look at the mass, we can only see these 2, right? Okay, then because you must fix, surface area must be the same, correct? Because this is, the variable is 20 and 30. Different mass, same surface area. So you look at the result. Is the result different? Yes. Can you see? One is 12, one is 9. So we can confirm that as the mass increases from 20 to 30, right? The frictional force increases because the block moves a shorter distance. Okay. So here the question is, the answer is very simple. You say the greater the mass of the block, right? The greater the friction acting on the block. Okay, this question, you need to take note because later I show why some students get this one wrong. Okay, so this is the answer. The greater the mass, I prefer to use the greater the mass of the block, the greater the frictional force acting on the block. Okay, this part. Let me make it smaller, too big. Change to red color. Okay. Okay, the greater the mass of the block, because here the question asks you what is the relationship between the mass. So you take note of this this word here, the mass. Okay, can you see my mass also down here? So this is what the examiner look for. When they ask you mass, you talk about mass. Don't change the word to weight or something else. So this one, the mass is here. Can you see? And the friction acting on the block. So the greater the friction. Can you see the word friction here? Okay, I tell you why some students they make this careless mistake. Okay, they will say the greater the mass, right? The greater the mass of the block, the shorter the distance moved by the block. Actually, it's true, but they didn't ask you the distance. They asked you the friction. You understand? Oh, I repeat. So when they ask you about the mass, you talk about the mass. Okay. So some students, they wrote the answer as the greater the mass of the block, the shorter the distance moved by the block. Although it's correct up here, but they didn't answer this part. They didn't answer the friction. So this is important. Okay, next. Okay, another thing, you highlight this part. Again, based on David's result, okay, based on this result, did the area of contact, so you see area of contact here, right? Okay, with the table affect the friction. So now you need to compare these two. Okay, you need to compare this section here. Okay, based on this one. So I must use which experiment? Let's see. So I must alter the area of contact, but the mass must be the same. So I erase this part. Make it clear again to let you choose. Okay, so now I must alter the area of contact. Okay, can you see this 25, 25, 18? Okay, then I must use a constant mass. Okay, so can you see I must use this set of values? This set. That means I must use block Q and R. Because you see, Q is 25, right? R is 18. Okay, and the mass remain the same. We can only change one variable. In this case is area of contact. So look at here. You notice, hey, how come it's the same result? It's 9, right? That means the area of contact does not affect. Okay, for this sort of question, okay, you must state which result you use. Okay, so they ask you, did the area of contact affect? So answer is no, right? Yeah. So you must say no, then you give the explanation, which I'm going to guide you how to write. Okay, this part. Okay, so you say no. Okay. No, the distance moved by Q and R was the same. Okay, so you identify the block Q and R was the same. Even they had the same area of contact with the tabletop. This shows that the same amount of friction was acting on them. Okay. Same amount of friction was acting on them. So you take note of this. And then I let you copy down this for a while before I screenshot the thing. Okay, next one. Other than changing the mass, okay, this one is a bit tricky. You put an asterisk here, this part. Okay, put an asterisk here. Other than changing the mass, so you cannot change the mass, right? And the point of release of the hammer. What should David do to the setup if he wants the block to move a shorter distance? So you must see now, I cannot change the mass of the what? Block. I cannot change this thing. And I also cannot change the point of release of the hammer. But I want this block to move shorter. So that means I must increase the frictional force, right, between the tabletop and the block. correct? So that it will move a shorter distance, because I cannot change this part. So this, if you understand that, then your answer will be quite simple. So they ask you, actually they ask you two things. What should David do? And then you need to explain your answer. Okay, so an easier way is you just state what he do, how to increase the frictional force, which is to apply a layer of sandpaper. You know, sandpaper is rough, right? Okay, apply a layer of sandpaper on the tabletop. Then you explain, because the sandpaper has a rough surface, so it will increase the friction between the block and the sandpaper. Therefore, the block will move at a shorter distance. Okay, so I show you the answer here. This part. I will put it here, and then later you can. Okay, so this is answer for this part. Make it slightly smaller in between the line. Okay, so this answer. Apply a layer of sandpaper on the tabletop. The layer of sandpaper has a rough surface, so it will increase friction. Increase friction between the block and the sandpaper. As a result, the block will move a shorter distance. Okay, this part will increase the friction. Okay, so you take note of this. Okay, later before number 4, I give you some time to copy this thing, and then I will screenshot all the answer and send to you all. Okay. Let me screenshot this first. The guy looked like Mr. Bean. Oh, in the video. So I give you some time to complete this part. The answer key on question 3 and question 4 here. But question 4 you all don't see because question 4 I haven't discussed the question. So you do question 3 first. Okay. Question 3 is to apply a layer of sandpaper on the tabletop. So the layer of sandpaper has a rough surface, so we'll increase the friction or increase the frictional force between the block and the sandpaper. As a result, the block will move a shorter distance. Okay. So earlier that one is no, the part B, the one. Okay, no. So you must say you use block Q and R, this part. Okay. Q and R is the two setup, right? Because they were the same. As you can see, Q and R, right? Because Q is and R same mass. Okay, even was the distance move, right, was the same, even they have different area of contact. Okay, so you take note of this part. And then this one is the earlier part. The graphs, I told you, right, the graphs. Let me make it smaller. So this part, the 3 graphs, same height. Okay. 3 graphs, same height. Okay. So, okay, we take a 7 minutes break and we come back later. Okay, see you in about 7 minutes time.